All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode number 18 of Verdicts of the Ancient Kings. We are currently back from vacation, and, well, a lot has happened in the world of Hex. Thank you, everyone out there who have been tuning in weekly. I know we took a little bit of a 4 week break, but we are back better than ever, and we got a lot to talk about as we've dug our heels into Adventure Zone 2, started fleshing out some decks, had some fun with Adventure Zone 2, and now, before we could really even talk about Adventure Zone 2, it looks like we are looking at Scars of War Set 6 somewhere on the horizon. No firm date yet, but it looks like Scars of War is going to be coming up. Alongside me today is going to be Nico. Nico, how are you doing?
I'm good. I'm busy as usual, but I am happy that I've had time to dig into AZ2 and kind of figure a few things out and get some ideas. And now I'm in the process of trying to get those ideas back out to the community. So hopefully, people that like the decks that I share will be able to get to see a lot more of that in the future.
Yeah, and we'll be covering a couple of those decks in just a little bit. I don't know if you guys remember way back in, well, 2016 now. It feels like forever and a day ago. We did have one last puzzle to kick off or end the new year. And it turns out that this puzzle may have been a little bit more difficult than we suspected, as we only got, well, 3 entries. Perhaps people were just away for the holidays. But why don't you go ahead and dig into this puzzle made for us by Ewell and go into the solution as well.
Yeah, sure. And just for me to double check with you, Krita, what are you streaming to right now? Are you streaming to YouTube or Twitch?
I'm streaming to Twitch, or I believe I'm streaming to Twitch.
Okay, let me just double check. Because for some reason I'm not finding you. I just want to make sure that we're all good. Oh, there you are. Okay. So we are good. You are streaming. Okay, so and I just had the sound on. Anyway, so this puzzle that Ewell had made for us before the break basically came down to two cards. Well, one card and three copies of it. The card is Venteo's Gift, and it says, pay two. When you play this, and it's only two because of the challenge. When you play this, put two Tarantula eggs into the opposing champion's deck.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Now, if you're running equipment for it, and this puzzle, part of the solution is determining what PvE equipment you run, you would be running both the chest equipment and the weapon equipment. The weapon equipment allows you to put three eggs in the deck instead of two, and the chest equipment allows the card to come back to your hand when a tarantula enters play.
Mm.
So basically, how this works is when you're playing against Mad Eridan, his little passive ability that you see up there called Repulsion Aura says when an opposing champion plays a non-resource card, there's a 50% chance to put that card into its controller's hand, and that card gets cost -1. So because there is a negative cost associated with it if it gets like auto countered, you can get a Fenteo's Gift or multiple Fenteo's Gifts down to 0 cost. So basically that's how you want to solve the puzzle. You want to get the Fenteo's Gifts down to 0 cost, and then you want to continually play those 0 cost Fenteo's Gifts. And you can easily do that with the 9 resources that you have left. Basically, you play each one of them at the 2 cost, and then you're hoping they all get repulsion back. If there's a 50% chance, you can do that in a specific order to make sure that all of them get their reduced cost. So you'd be paying exactly 6 for the 2 cost, and then 3 for the 1 cost, and then they'd all be 0 cost. And then when you have both Vilefang Eremite and Nazat Lookouts in play, the discard off the top of the deck from the Nazat Lookout would allow you to basically mill the rest of the deck and always guarantee that you're going to hit a Tarantula egg. So that was basically the solution. It was actually a pretty easy puzzle. I think maybe because we went on hiatus, a lot of other people did as well, but congratulations to the three individuals that actually submitted, which is Gary L, Audens, and Band. You all will win a prize. So thanks for playing.
Yeah, I'll be sending out prizes later this week. It's most likely going to be a mercenary or a convocation code. I'll have to look through my prize closet right now, trying to figure out what I have left, and then try and properly pace us for the rest of 2017. Unless I get to visit Hex Ent anytime soon. But moving right along, I know a lot of people out there have been playing Adventure Zone 2, have been really enjoying it, but one of the biggest problems was you're trekking right along, and all of a sudden you get to the boat, and your deck, you have to completely make a brand new deck for the boat, and a lot of people just like stopped and looked at the deck and like, what am I gonna do here? I don't get a mercenary. I don't get all of my talents. I don't get my level 9 or level 10, whatever character you have. What should I do to approach this? And Nico actually posted this deck up in the forums in Discord for Cornerstone, and I gotta say, this deck is absolutely fun to play. I've tried it a number of times, and the number of turn one and I've actually had a turn one win, turn one and turn two wins is simply astronomical. Why don't you go ahead and explain how this deck works?
Sure, and I got to give some credit right off the bat to Unskilled. He was the first one that kind of shared this concept on the campaign decklist forum thread that Coach Flipperon leads. And he basically did a Ruby version where he played Technical Genius and Dread Technomancer for free, but then he played a bunch of War Machinists and Construct Foremans as the card of choice. And basically what this deck does is it's abusing a few things. The first thing it's abusing is the new starting hand resource engine, basically, where you're almost guaranteed to have a shard in your opening hand, even when you're playing a very low amount of shards. In fact, I think Unskilled's deck is only running 4 shards. He's only running 4 limestones. My deck, I'm running 8 because I actually have quite a few cards that I want to make sure I have at least 1 shard for, like Cerebral Jackhat and Dread Technomancer, multiple copies, and Gearsmith. So basically what we're doing is, so we're abusing that to make sure we get a shard. And then the other thing we're taking advantage of are the talent points and crew, so that we're guaranteed that we'll start with a Parrot in play, a Technical Genius in play, and a Dread Technomancer in play. So kind of the ideal setup is that we start with our Parrot, our Technical Genius, and our Dread Technomancer. And in order to do that, the only thing you have to pay attention to is when you get your starting hand, you want to make sure you do not have your Technical Genius in that hand. You have to mulligan it because we're only playing 1 copy. And that's the only way that the crew talent point will pull it out of our deck and put it into play. So after you do that, kind of the best ideal opening hand is a single shard, a Dread Technomancer, and then a bunch of artifacts. And basically what you want to do is play that Dread Technomancer so that there'll be 2 in play. So every time you play an artifact, it's going to create 2 Dreadlings. And if one of those artifacts happens to be a Warp Steel widget, every artifact you play after that Warp Steel widget will give it exactly 3 counters, and you can just exhaust that Warp Steel widget to make a free artifact. So it's pretty fun. I would definitely recommend this deck to anyone that wants to try something different and fun. And you can kind of switch it around a bit. There's some cards in the deck that aren't necessary, like Entrath Settlers, the LZ37 targeting system. They're kind of nice to have, but they're totally unnecessary. So if you want to tweak the deck list a bit, feel free to do that. I really like Cerebral Jackhat, and I like the Dread Technomancer combos with Warp Steel widget. So give it a go, and I hope you enjoy it.
Yeah, when I was playing with it, the targeting system does a number on, I believe, the storm clouds, because every time like the storm cloud sacrifices and you get all those little, like, I don't even know what they're called. Are they like raindrops, or you guys know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, stormlings.
The little stormlings. The targeting system, if you have 1 or 2 in play, they usually just start blowing through them before they even can come into play. So it definitely, you can run this deck throughout all the encounters very, very easily and can get very, very far. It's kind of almost autopilot in terms of play all of your 1 and 0 cost cards and see how far you can get. But at the same time, if you want to get back on land, it is a definitely fun deck to play. Moving to land, we also have a focus on two mercenary decks that we've been experimenting with. Hawker is a mercenary that was relatively cheap. Most players do have it, and it has one of the strongest abilities one of the strongest shard grids in the game. So people have been trying to figure out a way to really, really abuse it, and it looks as though Nico has come up with an approachable deck, and I'll let Nico take it away.
Sure. So again, I'm going to give a shout out to another member of the community. Verdant on the community Discord had mentioned a deck like this, so I thought I'd give it a spin, put my own spin on it. So basically, it's the Darkspire theme with Hawkor, so that Hawkor can kind of take advantage of both making additional copies. If you've upgraded Hawkor, you can make 3 copies of any card that has equipment in your deck to start with those extra copies in the deck. And then when you use your charge power, those copies get a reduced cost, or all cards of equipment get a reduced cost of 1, and then they all move up. I think it's either 4 or 5 spaces in your deck. So it's a way to quickly get to those key cards in your deck that you equipped, and then also a way to make them cheaper to play. And when you're playing Darkspires, that's particularly awesome because your Darkspires can kind of demonic tutor for themselves after they die. Mm-hmm. So you can easily just flood the board with your Darkspires. And then we're also playing Call the Grave with this trinket equipment so that, if a ton of your Darkspires die, especially ones that you've made copies of, you can get all copies of those back and immediately, play them again. Especially if you play the Darkspire Alkalite, which is already 1 cost and has speed with his boot equipment, and he has Rage 1. So if you get a bunch of them back from the crypt, you can just immediately play them and attack with them again. And the nice thing, too, about Hawkor is when you play an equipped card, all of your troops in play get +1/+1. So this deck just quickly explodes, and super fun to play. It's very affordable, and a lot of the rares in the deck are PvE campaign farmable. So enjoy this list if you want to give it a spin.
Yeah, being able to open up and having mercenaries be part of the adventure zones really opens up what we can, give advice to in terms of all the decks. Before we had to say, okay, if you had to run a dwarf deck and this particular class, you can do this. And there were so many combinations that sometimes you came across an encounter that you didn't really know what to do with your particular shard grid and your particular class, but now we can always, sneak it under the wire with another mercenary. Moving right along, I am going to be introducing the Cardboard Tooth Samurai, and aside from the actual mercenary himself, which was a Kickstarter exclusive, the deck is actually relatively cheap, and it abuses the fact that the Cardboard Tooth Samurai's charge power is only 1. So for those of you guys who don't have the Cardboard Tooth Samurai, one of the things that you look at first is his shard grid, and the shard grid is just 4s across the board. And the only side effect on this particular shard grid is that you need to have alternate art cards in order to have the deck completed. So it can be kind of expensive in there. You can see that I have 4 Whirling Brutalizers, Burns. Back in the day, there was an alternate art version of that. Also, if you've been running the VIP tournament, you can get a Quashridge Raider as an alternate art. You have other ways around it. But what I really like about this deck is this deck gets around a lot of the mechanics where there you can only deal 1 damage a turn, or there's just a large amount of troops blocking because it abuses charge powers and charges. The Arena Regular, really, really powerful. Anytime you play a resource, you automatically deal 1 damage. Anytime you use a charge power, if you have the Arena Regular equipment, it deals an additional 2 damage. So all of a sudden, the Cardboard Tube Samurai charge power, instead of dealing 1 damage a turn, is dealing 3 damage a turn. And then you can also add in Lightning Elementals, Whirling Brutalizers to try to push through all of that extra damage and really just push through more damage without having to really worry what's on the board. Also, Cardboard Tooth Samurai having Path Through the Oblivion, which is essentially a one cost extinction only for your opponent has gotten me out of a lot of tight situations. Just knowing that you always have something in your deck that you can draw for is gives you a little bit of hope when you're going up, say, an encounter that you're having more difficulty with.
Yeah, that card is amazing, and I really like the synergy with Arena Regular and Cardboard Tube Samurai. That's a good call. I'm actually really surprised I haven't tried doing that myself yet. And one of the other things I just thought I'd mention about this deck is if you're struggling with the AAs, because as Corona mentioned, you need to have a few of them in the deck to actually save the deck and play it. I think you need 10. The Quash Ridge Tusker and the Burns might not be something that's really accessible for newer players. You might be able to get copies of Scorch AA. And I think as you level up your account, and you'd have to play Hex for quite some time to get there, but Bolt Spasms eventually have AA copies as well. I think I'm pretty close to starting to get, let me see if I'm almost there. Yeah, I think in like 3 or 4 levels, I'm going to start getting my Bolt Spasm AAs for free. So that will be another option with this particular deck. And yeah, like I think you can replace Burn with Scorch and maybe even consider Lightning Elemental, even though they're super good for this deck. I probably wouldn't replace them. And then one other thing I thought I'd mention is I think Fang of the Mountain God has boots equipment. So you could probably drop that into, since I noticed you're missing a boots equipment slot. And I'm jealous of your 2 keepsakes. I've only gotten one of those in like 15 runs. So that's pretty nice that you already have 2 of those resources.
Yeah, those keepsakes are really nice when you want to be able to just like put down 2 brutalizers and swing for that additional 4. Also, I've upgraded my Cardboard Tube Samurai, and I've had a couple games where like
vulnerability, so
yeah,
good.
like that vulnerability, all of a sudden your arena regular, instead of dealing 3 damage, with all the charges, you're dealing like 15, 25 damage if you happen to have his charge power deal, I believe it's 10 damage. So yeah, there's a 10%. Yeah, it goes up very, very quickly, and it's just a lot of fun to play. And it's I don't know, it's something additionally nice where you can also use your Quash Ridge Rubble as well to try and get rage. There always seems to be some sort of out. Lightning Elemental versus a Hunger of the Mountain God. Both of them have very strong weapons equipment, so I'm still tweaking to see which one I like better. Lightning Elemental says you get +1 attack every time you use your charge power, and with a 1 cost charge power and a Lightning Elemental, he's essentially always gaining +1 additional attack just in case you ever need some sort of blocker or anything else like that.
Nice. Yeah. And what's something that you just said? Maybe I'll come back to it. But oh, yeah, vulnerability. So I've been farming a lot with Cardboard Tube Samurai, and it's really funny when you go up against a AI opponent that has less than 20 health and they start with a vulnerability counter, you can just one-shot them like right away.
Yeah, I think Cardboard Tube Samurai also starts with 2 charges as well. So
Yeah.
so you're always going to be able to just hit them over the head with the cardboard too, and maybe you'll just a turn 1 win before your resource, which is always kind of funny and hilarious.
Definitely.
All right, moving right along. I think a lot of people were shocked and not shocked at the announcement of Scars of War this past Friday. Scars of War, I guess the completing set in this pair of set 5 and set 6. And what was your take on the story and the background of Scars of War?
I read it a little bit. I don't often get very heavily involved in the storyline, which is weird for someone that likes PvE as much as I do.
Mm-hmm.
But it totally makes sense. I mean, yeah, of course, like now the war is happening and people are getting, are starting to like actually fight, and now we're seeing the scars of that basically. So I think it was pretty fitting that the Scars of War card is basically a heat wave that you can't heal from. I thought that was pretty cool. And of course, Valor is still a theme. I'm not super excited about that, but maybe after I see what Limited shapes up to be with set 5 and 6, I'll be totally fine with that.
Yeah, I was gonna say Scars of War. They kind of snuck in a bit of a teaser. Hero Fall actually got an equipment, and
Yeah.
in PVE, and if you actually read the equipment for Hero Fall in PVE, instead of destroying a troop, you actually convert the troop, and and you gain control of it. So I think this, if you guys read the storyline, the prince, instead of just removing him from the game completely, he actually switches factions and switches sides, and that's the idea of the equipment that you saw on Hero Fall that was added just recently in Adventure Zone 2.
They put those creepy shards in his eyes and he becomes necrotic.
Yeah, really, really interesting. Um, and the idea that the necrotic are kind of upset at the humans for cremating their bodies so that they couldn't become necrotic. I like that little bit of extra. I don't know, extra lore built into that. Taking a look at two of the latest cards that have been released, we know that there's going to be some other pups and some other cards that were mentioned from Hero Fall, but the two cards that we actually know the game text on are Scars of War and Talison's. I don't even know how to pronounce that. How do you pronounce the prince's name?
Taliesin?
Talison's Memorial. So we got the Scars of War card, that which is the Heat Wave mentioned, and Talison's Memorial. One thing that I did notice as well that was mentioned on the forums is the bottom of the card actually has a little paintbrush now, as opposed to the I guess what was a flip symbol. If you notice Scars of War, do you see what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Do we know what that is? Is it going to be talking about other, like, just the artist?
That was what someone had originally asked. I didn't see if there was anything that was a follow up to that question.
Hmm.
But yeah, I noticed that too. It is a slightly different symbol. I'm not sure if it's supposed to represent like a format defining change, like a rotation of any sort, because we do know with set six, is set one and set two are rotating out.
Hmm.
So I'm not sure what it's fully meant to represent, but it is interesting that the icon has changed.
All right. Here's a question for you that I've been wondering. Do you think that set one and set two rotating out will have a bigger impact on the PvP meta, or was it the change of gems that had the larger impact on the PvP meta?
Hmm. It's hard to say without seeing all of set six. Like they might do a lot of things that kind of mimic meta defining cards from set one and two that need to still be in constructed meta for it to be healthy.
Hmm.
So if they do that, then I would say the gem rotation had a more significant impact. But I think set one and set two going away is going to be pretty significant, especially for certain colors that are very strong like right now, like Wild that has Howling Brave and Chlorophylla,
Hmm.
and some of the key Ruby removal like Burn and Crafting Bolt.
Hmm.
I'm sure those will easily be replaced by other cards, and there's already great cards in current sets for those that are still playable. But I think there's going to be some staples that people are going to miss a lot, like Extinction as well.
Yeah, I mean, across the board, I'm the burn, the chlorophylla, the howling brave, the crackling bolt. Those uh, things that are really speeding up the tempo of PvP right now. Having those rotated out, I wonder how they're going to be added back in. I mean, burn by itself is obviously not a card that almost needs to be, or some variation of that card needs to be in PvP. I mean, one cost damage for two on a quick time. But then we already have cremates, so is that necessarily true, or is it going to be swapped out, or are people going to say that the loss of the basic time versus the quick action is going to really, really maybe perhaps remove Angus from that top tier position, or the deck that you need to build around?
Yeah, I mean it's really hard to make that call. I mean, if you're still looking at it just from the perspective of, is this more significant than gems? I think losing cards is more significant than gems because, I don't know. Like it seems like gems are super popular and cards that that play gems like Spell Shield for Rune or Hierophant was really annoying.
Hmm.
But the cards, losing the cards themselves is pretty
Yeah.
significant for constructed. I don't know how they'll replace burn or if having a basic action is better than having that quick action removal when you're responding to things. But like, for example, if you're responding to a card like a Might Singer still has a window to play a resource before you can remove it anyway. So was burn going to do its job that you needed to do before they got value out of their Might Singer? The answer to that is no, but that's not the case for every card.
Hmm.
So yeah, I think there might be another one cost removal, but it's probably going to look different in Ruby. Like we have Fireball, but it's threshold locked. So what is going to be the non-threshold locked solution to early game tempo that Ruby usually has an answer for?
Yep. All right, so we can guess until the cows come home, but until we get to see more of those cards, we're never really gonna know. I know a lot of people are looking forward to seeing I guess the 5 diamond and the 5 blood cards, the variation on Might Singer, Empress, and the Matriarch of Flames. What those are gonna look like from the new resource and the new threshold. So we'll have to take a look at that and see if those are going to be the valuable chase cards that everyone believes them to be. Well, it wouldn't be an episode of Verdict of the Kings without another puzzle for you guys, and this one is one that I've come up with personally. I am running a variation on a Shoku deck, and a situation very similar to what you guys see here actually did happen to me in a game, and I tried to tighten it up, and hopefully you guys like it. I'm gonna go ahead and just read it off to you right now. Your opponent has 23 life. They have no available resources, so you don't have to worry about what they're going to be doing on your turn. They do have 3 vampires out on the field, and it is the start of your turn. You have 3/3 resources. You have 2 blood shards and a 2 blood shard and a wild shard threshold. Your champion is Shoku, and you have 1 charge. Dormant one has 2 soul counters on it, but the attack bonus is not being shown on the Rune Ear and the Battle Hopper right now. You have 3 cards in hand. How do you win this turn? I believe there's only one solution, and as I said, this is PvP, so you cannot claim to somehow have Path Through the Oblivion in your hand and try and win that way. So let us know. Send your answers and your submissions to nicosharp@gmail.com, and we hope to hear from you.
Did you change this slightly? Did you add a resource? Originally, I think you said it was 2 out of 2 with 3 cards.
You know what? I think you're right. I think it is 2 out of 2.
Yeah, because you may have opened it up a little bit by increasing the shard.
You know what? Yeah,
we can edit it. We can just say on our video now that it's 2 shards, and then we can edit it before sharing.
Yeah, no, it's definitely going to be 2 out of 2. So
okay.
Yeah, I just remember the solution again. You only need to start the turn with 2 resources. Imagine someone played a Horrors of War somehow, and you actually have less resources, but we're still able to throw down the Rune Ear and the Dormant one. So, good luck to you all, and I believe that is it. Hopefully, we'll be able to start getting some teaser information for Scars of War for you. But from all of us here at Cornerstone Guild and, everyone from the community of Hex, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Hope you guys enjoyed it.
Yeah, happy 2017. We'll be back next week. Take care.